Hello to everyone, this is Vishal. Now we are in important topic of the day. What is the reactive programming? And hope all are doing good. And thanks to all your shares, likes, and comments on my videos. And time to time, I will upload more videos related to, whatever you want on your comments and more explanation of the things, new technologies, and uh, make the program short and other approaches we are using. Okay, so why we choose this topic today? Because of, as you see, you have seen my previous tutorials related to the MVVM data binding. So this is one part of that, and I don't want to give much more practical in it. I just explained to you the theory about the reactive programming and then a small practical on it, why we use this reactive programming and how to use the Rxjava on your project. Because of my previous tutorial, you already seen that there is a retrofit example, and in my coming tutorial I will explain the retrofit with Rxjava together. So in mean I want to explain to you that what is the reactive programming, so we can give the depth description on that and can use very easily in our MVVM approaches. So that's the motive. Okay, so the languages supported in your Reactive X is we can say the reactive programming is your Rxjava, C hash, your Ruby, Python, Kotlin, PHP, a lot of languages working on this reactive programming. And generally we will discuss about that. We are using the Rxjava and we are using the reactive programming. So what is the depth of that? Because of once we go in the depth of this uh, reactive programming and Rxjava and Retrofit, this kind of libraries and platforms, so we can make our program very easy. And in a simple definition, if I want to explain this, so that is the style of programming where you define a source of data and where we have a consumer of data. And once you connect consumer to the source, we need a library, and that library is Rxjava. And other languages, other ReactiveX libraries use. But here we are talking about the Java and Android, so we are using this. So that pushing the data generated by the source to the consumer. So that's the way we need it in our languages. So that's be working in three important things. One is source of data, consumer of data, and connecting consumer to source. So now again question arises how it works, why it is reactive. So as we learn in our object oriented paradigm, the everything and I mean every changes in the state be object uh, we notified. So that notification done by this Rx Java or this reactive programming. So the reactive programming is an extension of the observer software design pattern where an object has a list of observers. We have a number of observers that observe the thing and that are dependent on it. And these observers are notified by the object whenever its state changes. Whenever the state changes, it notified by the observer, and we can uh, show the changes on our app or on our other things on where we use it. Okay, so the reactive programming is a programming paradigm oriented around data flows and the propagation of change that I have taken somewhere from the Google. So this means that it should be possible to express static or dynamic data flows with ease in the programming languages use. But if I want to explain it, I just simply say every state change be notified by this reactive programming, and that we have to show by the source and consumer combination. And if I'm giving the example to you, practical real-time example to you, so that is I will make for you, and we have a ATM and the user. So we have a source and we are consumers. So what we want, what we need, we need some transaction with the ATM. We need our money from the ATM, and whenever we go for the transaction, there is some operations we have to work, just like we have to put the how much money we have to transact and how much that's again you share your um, debit card pin code be there, and then two things be happen there. Either you can get your money successful or there be some error in the such a case of error means there is no money in ATM likewise. So these things be happen, this scenario be happen in very much easy in our uh, explanation of the reactive programming. As you have to understand what is the ATM is your source of data, and our users, that is the consumer of data, we are the consumer. So whenever we want something to that, there be the transaction, and that transaction be done by Rxjava. Okay, so that's the easy way to explain you. And it is made of three key points. One is the observable, number two is observer, and number three is scheduler. I do not want to, I mean, at this time talking about the schedulers. I'm just talking about the observable and observer first. Then we go for the schedulers. So the observable is means that means there are nothing but the data streams. Whatever you want from your database, from your JSON, everywhere which is notifiable. So that observable packs the data that can pass around from one thread to another thread. And observers are what? That means it's consume data stream and then see, yeah, there is some data from the server, some data from the server, some data from the server or other. Then we get it and show it by the on subscribe on method emitted by the observable. Whenever the observer emit the data, all the register observers, we receive that data on next method. That I will explain to you practically. But you just learn that there are observable. Observable means sources. Observers, which observer means which observe the observable data. That means your data streams. That's it. And what about the scheduler? That is, we can say it is a asynchronous programming where we need a thread management. So schedulers, I will repeat it, but after a small example, as I shared to you. So this is your observable, and this is the subscriber or a consumers. Okay. So it is a style of programming, once I again explain to you, where we define the source of data and consumer of data. Once we connect the consumer to the source, the library works. And in the interactive programming, the consumer react to the data as it comes in. And this is the reason why asynchronous programming is called the reactive programming. Because of as you are working, I mean, you are Android developer and you know that in many apps you are working with the asynchronous classes. Asynchronous classes, there we run multiple threads. There be the big task you want to work on behind the background. Likewise, that so on that cases it works very well. It works. It makes your programs very easy. So the reactive programming is very easy in that cases. You just put it the single line and everything should be done by that Rxjava. How? That I will explain to you by the small example. So you have to learn that there are three important things you have to work: source of data, consumer of data, and connecting consumer to the source. So as we talked about the asynchronous programming, so there we need a schedulers. That means time to time. We need it. We need the threads. So the same thing we have to work on that. There is where we schedules come into the picture. And schedulers are the component in Rx that tells observable and observers on which thread they should run. There because of in your programming, if you want multiple threadings on that cases, so which thread that I mean scheduler be working, that be done by the schedulers. So that's it. And this is Rxjava. And Rxjava is a library that helps the programmers to write asynchronous, concurrent, and resilient applications. Using the Rxjava, you write the programs in reactive programming paradigm. Okay. And so that means you learn what is we learned: observable, observer, schedulers or consumers, and that is the Rxjava that react all these things. So today I just want to explain to you what is Rxjava in your programming and how you can use it. Okay, so one more time I will explain the observables to you. Observables by the some other definition: observable are the sources of data. Usually they start providing data once a subscriber start listening. Okay, and an observable may emit any number of items. It can terminate either successfully or with an error, as I described to you with the ATM example. So the sources may never terminate. For example, an observable for the button click can potentially produce an infinite streams of events. And benefit is that your app not crashes. And subscribers can have any number of subscribers, just like if you have multiple subscribers want that particular observable, that means particular source. So what to that, if that uh, once it is done, that means on next method it's called an each subscriber. And if the observable finish its data flow successfully, the on complete method is called on each subscriber. And if observable finish the data with the error, so on error method is called with the each subscriber. So these three methods for the subscribers we need it, and how we can use it, that's our explanation in our Android Studio that I will show to you. So these three methods you have to learn. One is observable calls whenever it wishes to publish a new value, when an error occurs, and when task completed. So on these three methods we have to work for the programming. Okay, and reactive programming provides a simple way of asynchronous programming. If somebody asks to you what why we use the reactive programming, that's the above examples you show to you. And why doing asynchronous programming? So why we use, because of we need multiple threads, multiple tasks that we have to run behind the backgrounds, and long tasks be there, some big streams be there. We need it by the asynchronous programming. So the Rxjava make it very easy. So that is called the asynchronous programming. So the reactive programming, the other name of reactive programming is asynchronous programming. Okay, so I think hope you understand well in this small session of theoretical, and I will explain more about that how to simply use this Rxjava on the in a practical manner in Android Studio. Okay, so let's see in Android Studio a small example of Rxjava how we can use. So for that, first we need to compile the IO reactive X Rx Android and Rxjava. That means we need these two compilation for the Rxjava, that is Rx Android 1.2.1, or if you use other versions and Rxjava 1.1.9. I'm using this, and I'm just giving the small example what is observable, what is observer, and how it react. So that's the example to show to you of Rxjava here. For need I want a text view, and I want a edit text also, and one more button. So make it as a edit text, make it as a button, make it as a match parent, match parent, match parent, and orientation, make it a vertical. So that's my layout, and text size I want to be a 20 dp. Text size I want a 20 dp, and click here, and ID is button click, and text size also be a 20 dp. Okay, and one more thing I want, id of this edit text be edit text, and id of this text view, and make the background be primary, and button background be accent. Okay, so our design be, yeah, fine. So this is the design, and main activity, I want all these things together, so make a reference for that. Button, edit text, and text view, these three things. And here I want to be a button, find view by id, dot id dot button click, and the same for the edit text, find view by id, that is r dot id dot edit text, and the text view, that is the text view, find view by r dot id dot text view. All these things, these three we have, and on button click we have to implement, so button dot set on click listener new on click listener. Okay, and here the actual start of the Rxjava is that one is observable and other is observer, as we discussed before. So the observable, and here I'm making this observable be a kind of string. Okay, and the other is we have a observer, and this also be the string. So that means whatever be the observable, get it from the edit text, observer check it and get that on the click. See, so first we have to make a create observable, because of we have don't have a server at this time, so making a method here, and void create observable. I mean, a small explanation, just what is observer, what is observable, and how we can implement it. So here we need observable is equals to observable dot create. Okay, and in create what we need, this is new observables. You see the methods above, it's automatically be there, and click it so you can see the methods be, and yeah, so that means you see the on subscribe we have a subscriber, and that subscribers we have to actually work on that. So that means I want subscriber dot on next. I want to do something from the edit text, so the edit text dot get text dot to string. Okay, and just enough I want, and that's be your completed, that task be completed. Okay, so that's be your observable, and on the same create observable means we have to create observers also. So on the observer is equals to new observer, and it automatically be create the three methods that I already discussed to you. Make it semicolon. One is on next, on error, and on completed. So that means subscriber that on completed, observer on completed be there, and on next whatever we want on the same on next. So I want be the things or changes on my text view. So text view dot set text as a, what is this parameter, s. So that's a string be here, but these things happen on click method. So that on click method be here as a observable dot your subscribe, and what we subscribe, that's be your observers. So that's observer be there. Okay, so now we have to run this and see what that is text, what we input, and it changes be occur on that. So it's the same as we did it on the notification observable in your MVVM. Because of our view models won't be the same notification, so it become very easy to work with Rxjava. Okay, so now we have to run this, and so we have to go for the Jenny motion. Once it run, then we'll show to you. Okay, now see the changes we here. Yeah, so this edit text observable, and when we click on that, you can see the above changes, and likewise that. Okay, so that's be the simple practical to show to you what is the observable, what is observer. That observable be in a future you can receive it from your uh, JSON data or whatever be. So we use the retrofit on that case with the Rxjava, but the working be like that. So the we have to I mean, on the next video I will show to you that how the retrofit and Rxjava both works together, and we're taking the same example as we taken on the retrofit, and once these things be happen, then we work on the pure I mean view MVVM tutorial on that case. Okay, so thank you so much for the day, and we'll come on another session soon. Thank you so much.